Hey there, Mistakes listeners. I'm excited again to present another episode to you coming close to the 4th of July. It's been pretty hot up here in Seattle, and yeah, way too hot for my liking. I prefer cold. Regardless of that, Todd and I sat and we analyzed a little show called Arthur. Arthur has been a PBS favorite for quite some time, I think about 18 years now. And stay tuned and listen to our commentary. This episode was recorded on June 28, 2015. So sit back and enjoy the show. So, in a little bit of our pre-show conversation, you said something happened at a Angels game this week?
I went to a Los Angeles Angels baseball game. I live in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
They were playing my hometown Seattle Mariners. A fan got on the field.
You didn't tell me that part.
Oh,
You didn't tell me it was the Mariners.
Oh, it was the Mariners.
Okay, jeez.
Dave and I are both from Seattle. Dave still lives in Seattle. But
Yes. Todd should live in Seattle.
Yeah, well, we all make decisions in life. Anyway, a fan got on the field, which is a felony, by the way, boys and girls.
Is it really?
Yes, it is a felony. Don't go on the field. This is why if you're watching a game on television, they will always turn the cameras away because they don't want to encourage people and give them their.
So it's even more special.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this guy literally ran around the field, ran in circles, ran from the outfield to the infield, threw a fake pitch, had some security guards.
What? He actually got to the mound and threw a fake
Got to the mound, he threw like a fake pitch, and then he ran. A couple security guards dove at his feet and missed. He jumped over them. Anyway, I filmed it, and it was interesting. I thought about this because I knew we were going to record today.
Right.
I thought whether I should actually post this, because I posted this on my YouTube channel, and it's partially just for entertainment purposes. I put a disclaimer on there that said, hey kids, don't do this because you will go to jail, which that gentleman is probably in jail right now. Will be paying a fairly hefty fine, I imagine.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder what a whole bunch of kids,
Wait, I'm
this
sorry,
guy
I missed it. Did you say you posted this on Facebook?
I posted this on my Facebook page. And
so the idea is that you are actually encouraging this behavior.
I am.
Even though TV turns the camera away, you turn your camera on.
I'm going to post this as a warning.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to turn this. I turned it into a public service.
Hey, kids, don't watch this.
I mean,
if you have children at home, because they might someday want to go out in the baseball field and run around. They can blame you. All right.
Well, this whole thing that we're doing is a public service announcement, is it not?
I guess that's true.
Anyway.
So that's a great segue, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Because we watched, I watched both episodes of Arthur.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which actually started off with a baseball episode.
It did. It did. Yes.
So go ahead. Tell me what do we know about Arthur?
So Arthur, Arthur is a PBS cartoon. This is our first. We have not done a PBS yet, have we?
No, we had actually talked about Sesame Street, but we have not.
We may do Sesame Street in the future, but for now we did Arthur. Self-disclosure, I do some of my research off of Wikipedia, which folks, Wikipedia is an okay place to go as a starting point for your research, not an end.
Right.
So that's just the way that I always tell my students. Anyway.
And as we're getting into this show as well, I just again want to say that we are learning how to research at this point. We're kind of pulling off information that anybody could find at this point, because Arthur is on IMDb too as well.
Wikipedia is a fine source for the basic information about things.
Yep.
That's okay. So Arthur is an 8-year-old. And I love how I have to just say what Wikipedia says. An 8-year-old anthropomorphic aardvark.
Right.
Which basically means they've taken all the animals and they turned them into little people, but they're still animals.
Right.
So there you go. Arthur is just sort of your standard kid. Domestic setting, friends, school,
parents,
games, parents.
Yep.
This show has been on for 18 years, and it has quite a following. That 18 years is a long time on television. It ranks it with and the Wikipedia article also said this, which was an interesting pair. It ranks it with Sesame Street and The Simpsons, only in terms of longevity.
Yeah.
Very little to do with content. So Dave, I'll start with you. What'd you like about watching Arthur?
So again, so just to back up a little bit, I am a art studio major. So when I graduated from college, I actually graduated with a paintbrush in my hand. So for me, it's always important to look at the art and to see the stylized efforts that they've made. Almost immediately when turning on the episode, it's really strange, but you could see that the style is unfinished, unbroken, or say broken lines. I don't know if you looked at around Arthur's face or his features, but the lines that go around and they break. It's kind of hard to explain without actually seeing it yourself. But it's a little bit disconcerting because nothing is ever completed. Like, it's a part of the style, but if I was drawing a circle in Arthur, there would actually probably be 4 breaks in that circle. It would never actually be closed. Again, it's not the end of the world, but I found it a little bit disconcerting. I thought, this show is not complete. And that's kind of their style. I'm not sure if that's what they were shooting for, but it was something I picked up off immediately.
Well, it works.
Yeah, it works. Again, here's man, what did I like? There's so much I liked about the show. I mean, I'm sounding negative right off the bat with their style, but I found it very pleasing. I found it very relaxing to watch. I was not really offended. If we're getting straight into what I really liked, I was utterly shocked. So, okay, we should probably get into the premise of the first episode that we watched, which was one of Arthur's friends, and Arthur included in that, are a part of a baseball team.
Yes.
And basically one of his friends is basically trying to figure out how he fits into this baseball team. I think, as I recall, he tries a couple positions. He actually tries to bat, and he's just not succeeding. I think, what is it called? Baseball Blues is what the name of this particular episode was.
And he dreams of succeeding.
Yes, and he does. He dreams of succeeding.
He sits at home and he sort of plays, the baseball through in his head, and does what a lot of kids do, dreaming of success, seeing what it looks like. The dream scenario where, he comes up to the plate and he hits a home run and everybody cheers and that sort of thing.
Right.
But he can't do it on the field.
So, here's what I expected, this is how I expected the episode to play out. I expected as he went along that eventually he would find some sort of position on the field and he would actually probably be a batter and hit a home run, or some miraculous thing would occur. But what ends up happening is he just keeps on comparing himself to the others and going, I'm just never going to be that. And then it just takes a weird turn. I kid you not, a shocking, weird turn, which I'm like, this is why this show is a cut above the rest. So, right, they invited a news reporter who's going to report on a Little League. I always find this stuff funny because I'm like, yeah, here's the news reporter who's going to report upon this Little League team.
Hey, it happens.
Okay, yeah,
trust me.
In this day and age, right?
It does, trust me.
So there's this reporter there, and his friend is actually homesick, and he decides, well, I guess I could report on what's happening in the game. And as that unfolds, it turns out he's just a great sportscaster. Did you get that?
I did.
I'm like, this is awesome, right?
Yeah.
He actually, and for me, being the nerd kid that was never good at sports, I totally would have jived at this episode. That I remember going and seeing friends play their games and being excited for them, and actually coming away with a story to tell other people about what that happened. And I didn't have to be in the field. I didn't have that pressure. I just enjoyed watching my friends play. And I'm like, this is exactly what happens for this character. And I go, to me that was a plus in every way.
Okay.
Go ahead. I mean, I could talk. I mean, I could jump right into the second episode, but...
Well, I think the one thing, and we've talked about this with other shows that we've watched, the thing that's very apparent from Arthur right off the bat is that there are adult figures all over the place.
Right.
Parents are there, coaches, very involved, very good role models, very encouraging, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Not always hyper realistic, unfortunately, in the real world, but in this particular setting, at least the episode we watched, it felt like everybody had a pretty nice little supportive environment.
Yep.
As it were. And as you said, fairly realistic in terms of the fact that, yeah, kids end up doing activities sometimes that are not a fit for them. Like, they like the idea of doing it. There are kids that like the idea of sports, the idea of being on the team. They like the uniform, they like the equipment, they like being part of a group. And then when they get out there, they realize, oh no, I'm not really that good at this, and I'm not really having a great time.
Mm-hmm. Which is that's my story,
right?
For sure. I was never going to catch a ball in left field. It wasn't going to happen.
Now, there is always that dilemma, and this is a positive and a negative from it, and you can get into micromanaging the plot and that sort of thing. Do you want the plot to go in a direction where the kid continues to work at this? The coaches continue to work with him and continue to encourage him and say, all right, just because you're not good at something right away doesn't mean that you should walk away from it.
Mm-hmm.
You will get better, we'll get you to a point where you can be functional, that sort of thing. Or do you go where the plot went, which is a perfectly reasonable direction to go, to say, hey, look, sometimes in life you don't force things. If you're not very good at this, you really don't enjoy it, then maybe we get
that is a parenting perspective I actually don't have yet.
That's a difficult thing.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming in that. Hey, this kid really should just follow through on the activity, and find his slot in the team, right? Yeah. Or maybe finding the importance of team is much more valuable than I need to find out, who I am,
right?
Versus who am I on this team?
And we don't want to get too far off the beaten path, but this is a parenting thing. For example, for my wife and I think a number of our peers, when we had kids that sort of faced these types of situations, a lot of us had sort of the same general philosophy of finish the season.
Mm-hmm.
So we signed up to do baseball, we signed up to do soccer, we signed up to do ballet, we signed up to do whatever. And the kid comes home and goes, I'm not really having like the best of time, or I actually have to work at this, or whatever. Unless the kid is in danger, unless it is a horrible environment, I know parents that have said, well, okay, let's stick with it for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Let's work through, and let's see if, and sometimes again with kids, and with adults, you get to the end and you go, yep, I knew this at the beginning of the season. I knew this wasn't going to work out.
Right.
I knew that, I knew it pretty early on that I wasn't going to have fun.
Right.
And other kids, by the end of the year, they go, okay, I've sort of figured some stuff out, and I'm glad I kept with it, and I'm glad I didn't quit after the second game, and that sort of thing.
Right.
Other stuff,
But I will say, just taking the episode in context in 15 minutes, and thinking about the next episode too, just trying to, because there were 2 episodes wrapped up into one. They do have both episodes have a unique moment where it flips it on its ear. There's an unexpected twist for both episodes, which I find very unusual for children's content.
Yeah, but I would say some of it, at least in the second episode, is a little predictable, I would say.
Okay.
In that the character that you don't think is going to sort of be the hero turns out to sort of be the hero type of thing.
Right.
So
in the second episode, we focus in on Buster Bunny, which apparently he's got his own spin-off. I saw this on the Wikipedia page. Is that
I believe
Buster
so.
Bunny is a popular enough character to actually have a spin-off. He's interesting because he's kind of I wouldn't say a bumbler, but he's just an average bunny, right? That doesn't, how should I say it? Again, it's so hard when you've only seen one episode, but a likable character, right? Kind of your average Joe, who's basically teamed up with the class brain, and another
who
student
is named Brain, by the way.
Right, exactly. Whose name is Brain.
His name is Brain.
Buster, and the Lummox, right?
Yes.
The student that you just don't think has anything to offer, right?
Correct.
And in that episode again, Buster's not succeeding at these math competitions. Brain thinks he's got a solution for it, and he tries to drive Buster to do something, and it's just too much for Buster because he's just not at that level, or he doesn't learn that way. And the Lummox of the group takes Buster aside and basically says, hey, this is how I learned. And basically gives Buster a mnemonic device, right? Hey, just think of cakes. If you think of 73 cakes, then the number must be 73, right?
Which is a good educational technique. It is.
Yeah. So I can't go wrong there. The twist there is that right, it's the kind of the bumbling character that you don't think has much to offer actually gives Buster the solution that he needs to succeed, where Brain really tried hard to make Buster a better student and just couldn't because that's not how Buster learns.
And it is a good sort of reminder that assessment is a good way to start when trying to come up with a solution for fixing a problem.
Yep.
Like they do sort of say the implication is that he should have asked questions as opposed to saying, well, this works for me, so obviously it must work for you.
Yep.
So.
I just didn't have a whole lot of problems with these episodes. Maybe you've got some more ideas of some critical feedback there. I
think the hard part when you watch an episode like this or a show like this is, as you said, it's very positive.
Mm-hmm.
It's very relaxing. It's very happy. There isn't a lot of, at least this episode we watched, there wasn't a lot of sort of, backstabbing behavior. There wasn't a lot of talking behind people's backs, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which, again, is great, is nice. I don't know if that's hyper-realistic for kids sometimes. If a kid watches this and thinks, oh, I'm going to walk into every environment and everyone's always going to be encouraging of me.
Good point.
Not that you want to say, well, kids, after we watch Arthur, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about all the mean kids that you're going to run into on the playground.
Right. After 18 years, though, I'm guessing that these smart writers have probably had a few episodes that showed, say, Arthur or Buster in defeat. But you're right, I don't think there's an episode out there that ends on a sour note.
Probably not. I mean, in the first episode when there are struggles on the baseball diamond, I have to imagine in real life some of those kids are in the dugout making fun of this kid.
Sure.
And sort of saying, "Oh, hilarious," or either making fun or just being mean to them when they come back and saying, "Nice job, way to screw up the game for us."
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
So you need a little sarcasm in your show.
I don't know if I need sarcasm, but I do know that kids can be really kind to each other, but they can be incredibly mean as well.
Okay.
And that's the hard part. Now, do you want to sit down and say, let's portray this as, the reality? I think in some ways, particularly PBS, tries to look for the good in life, which is fine, and sort of paint a picture of, it'd be great if when kids go out and do activities together, they are kind and affirming and encouraging of one another, and they have role models that emphasize that. And then when they encounter difficulties, that they don't shun or ridicule them, that they amp up the support at that point,
right.
Which we saw in this show and does occur in different situations. I do have to throw in one quick thing, only because I'm married to a math teacher.
Okay.
And yet again, we throw out, if you're going to pick a subject where kids have a phobia, it's always going to be math, isn't it?
Okay. Yeah.
So.
So it's a big cliche for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's never going to be.
Kids, math is okay. Math is your friend. Don't be afraid of math. There's lots of other subjects out there that are even scarier than math.
Yeah. Again, after 18 years, I can't imagine. But of all the episodes we had to pick, it had to be the math episode, right?
That's pretty minor, but I just feel bad for math teachers.
Sure.
They have a hard enough time teaching a subject sometimes without people saying, "Oh, in addition to being a hard subject, you're all afraid of this subject too, aren't
Yeah.
you? And you've been afraid since you were a young child."
Right. And I wish I could say that math, for a lot of people, it's just not entertaining. Other than
Correct.
when you're counting your money,
Yes.
right? Woo! But you
Math
learn
is
that.
math is kind of important in life.
Kayleen is counting her dollars right now. She's already got that down. She doesn't really need schooling for it.
Anyway, so that's Arthur. Any
Yeah.
final thoughts on Arthur?
To me, Arthur is fire and forget TV. I don't really have any concerns there. You're right. Other than there may be some sort of letdown in the future, like, geez, this just didn't pan out like Arthur.
I'm not having an Arthur life.
I'm not having an Arthur life, right. And I can see why it's immensely popular for both kids, and I'd say parents, too. I did not find... Again, we've watched some episodes already where I'm like, I can't make it through this episode, and this I actually found quite entertaining and interesting, and I did like the message. I did.
Yes.
For both episodes.
Yeah, I like the messages too, and sure, it's a little mushy and cliche and, cotton candy, but in a dark world, it's okay to have a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
Something to aspire to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
you can follow us on
Twitter,
and
our Twitter handle is Parent Mistakes, all one word.
Yeah. And if you got any comments for us or like to write us in, we'd love to hear what you have to say. Give us some tips or feedback, and I'm sure you can give us lots of feedback at this point. But we'd love to have that.
We would.
Yeah. All right.
That's it.
Yep. Have a good one.
Thank you.